What's going on, everybody? Gunnar here. Today we're tying the Weedless Nayat Bucktail Deceiver. Check it out. So that was the quick and dirty version. If you guys want to stay tuned here, I'm going to do a full tying step-by-step. Probably take me 15-20 minutes. Going to walk through every single thing you need to be able to knock this fly out of the park. A few talking points. It's kind of just a fusiform generic baitfish, not necessarily anything in particular. You could certainly modify it to make it so. But generic baitfish pattern comes in about 6.5 to 7 inches. You can do the flash tail heavy or light, so you can kind of mix and match your flash that way. But what's really nice is you don't need a lot of stuff. Basically, it's just bucktail and Nayat. And the way you layer the Nayat allows you to do complete color control while working with the same bucktail, which is really nice. Now, I want to talk about Nayat real quick because I've been using it a lot. There's a lot of questions on it. Not everybody knows what it is, where to get it, what it's useful for. So let's dive into Nayat for about 2 minutes, and then we'll run through this pattern. So Nayat is a natural. You can see it's on leather. This is hide. And it's basically, I don't know what animal it comes from, probably a goat or a sheep of some kind, but it's kind of exclusive to the European world or Canada. And so this Nayat that I'm using is from bigstreamers.com. It is the most premium, highest quality Nayat I have ever had the pleasure of tying with. That's who you want to get it from. But you can also get it from, I believe, Fly Dressing has the Bauer Premium Nayat line. And you can also get it from Skeena River Fly Supply over on the west coast here up in Canada. So those are kind of your sources. So it is a natural material. Being natural, you get a few benefits. 1, it's got long guard hairs. 2, it's got short woolly fibers. 3, it's all tapered, which is beautiful because it has more elegance in the water, allows you to build more bulk, but also have kind of tapered tips rearward, right? So you're going to get more life and action out of it compared to a synthetic. It's also going to have a little bit better bulk building capabilities as opposed to a synthetic. It will carry a little bit of water weight. You mitigate that by removing the wool. Now the wool that you remove is not junk. It's premium high quality wool that can be used for stacking and packing wool heads. Don't throw it away. Save it for later. Now, why use this? Okay, real quick, the guard hairs are a little bit stiffer than, let's say, Icelandic sheep. Icelandic sheep is kind of the US equivalent of long fibered hair material. It tends to be very, very woolly. When it gets dyed, it's almost exclusively woolly. I use that all the time to do my wool heads. Icelandic sheep, going out, that's what I use. Because the long fibers, they kind of don't really exist in anything other than the white color, the natural, undyed, unprocessed color combo. This remains nice and stiff, nice and coarse. It's basically the ideal long hair that's all natural. So it's not going to knot, not going to foul, it's not as brittle, it's not going to tangle. And on top of that, what it really allows you to do better than anything else is kind of extend the length of your bucktail, because most bucktail is about 4 inches. That's about it. Most people have access to 4-inch bucktail. So if you want to tie a 6.5, 7-inch fly, you have to extend the body, you have to extend shanks, you have to put the hook in the back and shanks up front, you have to do all these things. But with a nice natural like Nayat, you can just kind of put overwings on it and complete this nice inner core, outer core, almost like how I would design my dubbing brushes, using this to get your length in the outer silhouette with bucktail for kind of spacing and support. That's how I'm going to use it. That's how I'm going to demonstrate it. Time out. Now, I've never done a giveaway before. ever. And people ask me for flies all the time. They want to put them in their room or their tying room, or they want to fish them. I don't sell flies anymore, but I thought it'd be cool if from here on out, each tying tutorial, I gave away the fly that was tied in the video. Really simple thing to do. So just like, comment. I'll use a random number generator and I'll pick whatever number comment that is down the list, probably in 1 week. So I'll give you guys a week to like and comment, and then I'll just ship this off worldwide, wherever you are, doesn't matter. I'll cover the shipping, like and comment. So let's dive into this. You can also check out merch if you dig the Swimbait flies, because they're pretty epic. You guys can shirts and sweatshirts and a bunch of different stuff. Tumblers and mugs and pint glasses, you know, whatever. Let's dive in and tie the fly. First thing first, I'm rigging these guys with a rattle. You don't have to do this, you can skip this step. But I'm putting the hook in the vise. It's a 4/0 PR 378 GB Predator Swimbait hook designed for weedless fly tying in a Swimbait style. I'm going to start my thread, which happens to be 6/1000 of an inch Danville monofilament, right down here on the lower flat bend. You can see we got a 45 and a flat bend on the bottom. This is not a continuous arc, for the purpose of putting rattles on the inside of the wire to protect them for when you're dredging. Now, trying to tie on a round rattle on a round hook shank isn't very fun, so I'm going to rip off a big thick piece of monofilament here. This happens to be 80 pound. You could use anything from 40 to 80 or whatever, but just cut that off. And what I'm doing is I'm making a nice little flat box right here. So I got monofilament on either side, cut fairly short, maybe 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch, something like that. You can see it makes a nice flat little, you can move that around with your fingernails, but I got a nice little flat space to put my rattle. Now on the 4/0, I really like a 4mm glass rattle, fits everything perfectly, about proper proportions too. And I'll just tie that right into my box. And you can see it doesn't want to roll, wobble, twist, nothing. Now after a good thread base, control your thread, bring it down to the shank, throw in a half, and a whip finish. Sorry, my bend's got in the way there. And then before you super glue that, make sure it is picture perfect, because you just want everything to be symmetrical and balanced. And tag that with some CA+. I'm using the mini tubes, I forget what they're called, single use Zap. Really nice applicator. Once you open them, they'll stay good for a very long time, like 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. I got a video on how to kind of use that and open it and get the best results out of those. But take that out and let that kick. Now I'm going to come in with a 20mm articulated shank from Flyman. Going to lock that in. Just make sure the hook eye is closed. If it has a little twist, a little too much twist, just pop it back. I'm going to start my thread on the double R, lock it in place. It stops the shank from flexing all over the place in the vise. It's kind of more useful on the 35 than the 20, but whatever. It's habit. Come in with another chunk of mono. Now because it's not a full Swimbait rig, it's just an extended body rig, I can get away with using non-straight mono. So you see this is just got a boatload of memory to it. But that's okay for these simple extended bodies. It's not the end of the world, because you'll be able to kind of mitigate it and make sure it comes out perfectly straight. And you can see the memory is going left and right. So it'll be perfectly linear when I tie that onto my shank, and I don't have any hoops going down to the back because I'm not going all the way back to the hook bend. So I just put that through the gap right here in my shank, threaded it through the gap, tied both on top. Now the reason why they both go on top like this, pretty simple. Where's my bare hook? It's because then that it's going to go on top of my hook shank, and my basically shank and my hook shank are perfectly in line. Simple things. The simple things make a big difference in your tying. Cut those off maybe about 1 inch. You don't need them very long. And then that Zappa gap, the reason why I use that on my mono threads, because when it kicks, it welds it all together. You get one big old solid piece of plastic, which is pretty sweet because they're durable beyond belief. I'm going to come in with some flashy stuff. This is Hedron's Magnum Flash. Magnum Flash Boo. It is forever long, like 20 inches long. It's sweet. I'm going to cut it in half. So I have some dyed pearl, yellow dyed pearl it looks like, and some silver. I'm going to take those tips and I'm going to taper them because I don't want them all to be the same length. And I'm going to grab the midpoint, wrap it around my thread, pinch it, bring it up to the top, lock it in place. Thread goes straight over the top and straight down. That's bulletproof, ain't going out, can't pull out. What's really sweet is you get more flash in the middle, less flash out of the tip because we tapered it. But this shank is going to ride dead center, and the fly, right, the shank is right here in the middle of that fly body. So you got a nice kind of flashy core with tapered tips. Pretty sweet. Now I'm going to come in with the Nayat, the Big Streamers Premium Nayat. I'm going to try to find the longest hair on the hide that I can. It's a natural material, so there will be some variance. You can see I'm going to preen it out. If you're used to working with craft fur, it's kind of similar skills as far as material handling. Cut it off close to the hide. I basically only want the guard hairs for the tail stack. So I'm going to come in with a comb. I'm going to comb out all the wool. Save the wool. It's premium wool. Look how premium it is. Look at it. It's the sickest stuff on the planet. Put it in the box somewhere. Now I'm going to come in with all these guard hairs and I'm going to taper the butts because I'm going to bullet tie everything for a few reasons. One, so it's always tied in twice. Two, it can't ever pull out, so durability. Three, the butts will help support the tips, give them more volume, and when I start integrating the bucktail, they'll stop it. They'll kind of create like a buffer layer for the long fibers so that there's like a material dam functioning properly on top of the bucktail. Now that's veiled lightly around the shank. Come up with nice light thread, get a nice full circle on there, pinch it, pull it to where you want, check the density, always check the density. If you make an error for more fibers on top. The water resistance of the fibers on top will help orient the hook by way of a stabilizer wing. Put down a flat base going rearward. I created a nice valley between my two pieces here. Flare it out, open it up. Push tool, if you have one. You don't need a push tool, but they are very convenient. This is the Proto John, which I have in my shop. In fact, I have everything you need to tie this fly in my shop except for the Nayat. Control that guy, bullet tie, meaning I'm tying on top of the material and creating basically a little bump that looks like a little bullet area. Bring it on top of the shank, finger whip, call it good. So that is your extended body. Very clean, very simple. Puts length and flash into the core of the gap. The monofilament stays flexible, very durable. It's stiff even with the 80 pound, but it's not so stiff that it prevents any sort of hookups whatsoever. Extends the length of your fly, and I like this because this water resistance lifts up in the water column and transfers through the stiffness of the mono. It pushes the nose of the shank down, so it helps the fly balance and ride picture perfect, which I like. I keep saying picture perfect. I probably shouldn't say it that much, but whatever. It's stuck in my vocabulary. Cool. Start your thread up here, right on the shank. Put down a nice aggressive thread base with nice constant thread pressure. Thread bases are important. Should be nice and a lot of friction on that guy. Come in here with your extended body rig. Pop her down. You want a slight space so that you can get the flex right there. I'm going to kind of catch that right in the middle, so I got just some room to manipulate. Make sure she goes bang on top. You want everything to be perfectly in line. I'm going to shorten that mono up just a tad. So I'm going to bend it up, shave her down. Now you can counterbalance the head dip of these style hook because all of this hook weight and everything, which by the way, I'll just address this. I get asked this all the time. When you stack everything in line in this perfect plane, look how much wire, by the way, is well below this with only this little bit up top. That only a little bit. All of this wire is keeling wire. All of this plane is for your water resistance, which is going to help orient the hook. All of these flies will ride correctly without any sort of keel weight. The keel weight is optional if you want the fly to drop. Now, all of this wire weight is being supported by this water resistance. The materials stacked up here have resistance, so it tends to, I'll show you back here, it'll tend to sag if you tie it completely weightless with no extended body rig. You don't want this sag. The sag's not good. Now, the extended body rigs fix that. The Swimbait rigs fix that. A little bit of lead on the shank fixes that. Now, because we're going to tie in the round, I don't want to do lead eyes or B-chain or anything like that. Basically, I'm only going to take like 4 turns of 030 right up here in my double mono section, and that's going to balance that out so that I get a perfect ride. Go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Doesn't have to be picture. I was going to say picture perfect. Doesn't have to be super, you know, nerdy. Just get it on there, and that's going to help put some weight up here in the nose and make sure that the fly rides correct. So I'm going to draw my thread over that lead handful of ways and really lock it in. Now you'll see the bucktail I'm going to come in with is not like crazy premium 5.5 inch exclusive to Gunnar bucktail. It's just like 4-inch hair. I literally just like pull the package out of my shop. Like it's just 4-inch hair. It's nothing crazy. And I'll show you how the Nayat just extends that to make this nice little silhouette. Now, the density of hair you want to use for your bucktail after you clean out the butts and everything is kind of dependent on how wavy it is. If it's not very wavy, you can see this hair is more or less fairly straight. I'm going to use quite a bit, like maybe 30 strands. If it's super wrinkly, wavy, has a bunch of trapped air in it, you can get away with like 15, like cut it in half, because it's all going to have completely different bulk building capabilities. So this straight hair, I'm going to use a bit more of. Now I would urge you, when I say 30, like count them like 30. Don't use 50 or 60 or 70. People overdress bucktail like crazy. Keep it nice and thin and sparse. It's just an underwing to support the Nayat. Right on top, 3 wraps, thumbnail right into the thread, moves it around the hook, pinch it for evenness, smooth pull so you don't shock and break your thread, wrap down the butts, make a flat base. This is where we're going to tie the Nayat in. Pick it out, make sure it's not fouled up on your hook bend and everything is nice and straight back. No wavy, curly, knotted mess. Nice and clean. Now I'm going to do a fun little color blend on this one, and I'm going to make the head more complicated than it needs to be for my own personal enjoyment. Sorry about that, but it's just the way I tie. So I'm going to take off a nice layer. You can see, if you look at the leather, just kind of how big it is. It's not a super big space. I'll show you when I cut it off. Just a nice little patch. Just a nice little patch. Again, I'm going to comb out most of the wool. So I have them like pinching it like 2 inches up to apply my comb, and so I get 2 inches of wool. Now there's still going to be some wool-like hair in here. That's okay. Now I want this slightly shorter than where my white ended. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball that. I'm going to shave off about 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to finger taper that so that they're all end in different places. Roll it back into itself, comb it out. Now combing it out seems trivial. You have to comb it out because it makes everything nice and straight. It's all perfectly lined up. So when you go and do these little hollow ties, the fibers aren't ever crisscrossed. Everything just sticks out the way it's supposed to stick out. I have the butts going back maybe 1 inch total. That's kind of your bulk builder that's built into the fly, and that will layer off the bucktail so that this won't seep through the bucktail and creates a nice material dam. That's very natural, and we're going to get some good spacing between stacks so that the water can get in there and make it all breathe. Fan that out, push tool, over top. You see I'm just working it around my thread so nothing is trapped. It takes a little second there. Under tension, bullet tie. Locked in place double, come up in front of the lead. Come in with white again. If you have a shorter bucktail, like I'm using 4-inch hair here, use 3-inch hair here, or 3.5. Get that nice little taper. I don't have, well, I have a bunch of short bucktail. I just don't want to get up. So I don't know if that's laziness or what. I just don't want to get up. But I'm going to come in with the same bucktail, so it's still 4-inch hair. Now what you can do is you can cut off kind of more than what you need. You can take the long fibers out. And then I have some brown in there from the hide, so I'll just kind of finger stack this a little bit. Try to work the brown in so that it's even. I'm going to lose some fibers, which is okay because they're a little dense anyway. And then I'll use my hand as a hair packer. Even up the butts. Cut them flush. Again, because the tail's not wavy, it's not a lot. I'm using more hair than I normally would. If it was a super wavy tail, I wouldn't use that much hair. Catch it on the shank. Catch it on the shank. And you see I caught it at an angle, and as soon as I caught it, I pushed it down to level it out so that it's all trapped in the same place. Manipulate that with pinching. I still have tension on my bobbin, just light tension, so it's not completely free. Push that around, smooth draw to lock it in right up to the hook eye. Now, the evenness of the bucktail distribution is crazy important for how these flies track. I talked about how everything is more or less well above all this wire weight. Well, water resistance is well more important than kind of keeling weight of hooks. Tying symmetrically guarantees that that hook wire is enough weight. If you tie unsymmetrically and you got a bunch of material below that hook bend, you're going to struggle. So be wary of that and make sure that you're tying there with a lot of control. Now I'm going to come in with some gray Nayat, and I'm going to do something fun because it's going to be fun. You don't have to do this. All of this is optional. But I'm going to take the gray. I'm going to take about 2 inches of wool out of it. Now this gray is longer than my white, and it's longer than my yellow. So what I'm going to do is I need to shorten it to get the proper proportions. If I put this in full length, that's garbage. I want it to end about halfway down the fly. So I'm going to take the tips, rip out the short hair, stack them, rip out the short hair, stack them. So now I've shortened the kind of usable hair that I want, so it ends perfectly halfway down the fly. So it's kind of following the rule of halves, if you've ever seen that in a different video. So I have butts here, here, and here. I'm going to shorten these up. Now because I have to blend these to get the guard hairs and the wool integrated throughout each other to make them perfectly symmetrical, I already have to do all the hand blending anyway. I might as well throw in some fun flash and get some really cool features. So I'm going to take wing and flash, fluorescent yellow, and I'm going to lay down a pinch. Let's cut that pinch in half so it's the proper length, and I'm going to put that on top of my hair, and then I'm going to come in with some ripple ice fiber. This happens to be peacock. Just some very sparse strands, put that on top of the hair. But I already have to do this anyway. Might as well make it wicked cool. And then I'm going to rip stack the butts, which is going to hand blend the wool into the guard hairs, into the flash, and it's going to just haphazardly make the butts uneven, right? Because we've already finger tapered all the butts so that we don't have clean edges in the fly. And you just want to do this until that flash is throughout and looks absolutely killer. This would be like the world's greatest dubbing. 6.5, 7-inch flash dubbing. Like, that's just bonkers. Super critical. Comb it out. And you can see how untapered, or untapered, how non-square, how tapered those butts are. Apply that to the tips. Come in here. Veil everything, leaving the butts long, about 1 inch. It's kind of like your bulkhead volume support go-getter. Nice round thread, a lot of control, light pressure on it when you pinch and pull. Now because you're working with the hook eye's flat, so it makes getting round material distribution hard. So I kind of am set back from the hook eye a little bit. I need to check the bottom. You don't want more material on the bottom, you want more material on top. Once you like the distribution, you can wrap up to the hook eye so that everything is nice and clean when you bullet tie it. wrap back, you've now created a thread valley, which is going to work in your favor to do the bullet tie. Open all that up, pull all that back. Should get like a handful of clean little bullets on there, and then you can come up half hitch, finger. Oh, my thread broke, my knot didn't seat. I still have the half hitch on there. Always have a second spool ready to go. Hate it when that happens. Always have a second spool ready to go. Ooh, that custom flash Nayat is disgusting. Look how cool that looks. That's like super sexy shad right there. Not just sexy shad, super sexy shad. That's wicked sweet. All right, hit that, lock those knots in place. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a bodkin to control the goo. Zap goo is legit. It's the bomb. It's probably equivalent to E6000 or shoe goo. Kind of my two favorites. You can also use liquid fusion. They're all good. I am not going to take a lifetime to try to keep these eyes on here forever. If they're on for, 5 fish, that's fine. If it's on for 10 fish, that's a bonus. If they stay on forever, that's not likely, but sometimes it feels like people take 10 minutes to tie fly and 15 minutes to try to keep the eyes on it, and I just don't want to do that. And you can see how the head still has some nice volume to it, and it's not pinched paper thin. And I got all this bulk rearward on this really sick color combo on a weedless design. Now, a few things just real quick that I love about these hooks and this material pairing. You'll see me use these hooks all the time with bucktail. Secondly, I'll use them with Snow Runner, or Nayat, sorry, that goes by the same name. If you look at Skeena River, I think it's called Snow Runner, but it's the same product. But straight fibers don't impede the hook gap. They just fall out of the way. Natural hairs and bucktail are ideal. When you try to stack like a fully synthetic baitfish that has a lot of S crinkle in it, like say Steve Farrar blend, if you did like a Steve Farrar blend baitfish on this hook, those fibers, because of the S crinkle, can kind of create like a matte effect that will hit the hook point and kind of block it a little bit. But the straight fiber, basically, if you can find it with your finger, it's gonna find a fish. That's how I kind of, boop, every time it's right there. So yeah, that's the fly. Like and comment, and in a week I'll tell you who wins, and I'll ship this bad boy off wherever you are in the world. I'll have to figure out how to contact people and make sure everything's not super public so nobody knows what's going on, but I'll figure that out. Thanks for watching. Give it a try. Tie one up. Check out the merch. Check out the flies. Catch you in the next one.